Hello everyone and welcome to our UniFi Web Seminar. My name is Ryan Rowley and I'm with Ubiquiti Networks and I'll be hosting this event. We're also joined here with Matt Hardy, Jerry Yang, the architect of UniFi, and Ben Moore. We really appreciate you guys coming. And just if you guys are wondering if you're alone, you're not. We're joined with people from all over the world. Just looking at who's coming on, I see people from Asia. I see people from North America, South America, Europe. So we're from all over, and we're going to be talking about UniFi, which is a really exciting new product from Ubiquiti Networks. If at any time you guys have questions during the presentation, feel free to fill out on the left-hand or on the right-hand side of your column. You'll see a little Q&A tab where you can type in any question you have, and we'll go ahead and talk about some of the questions at the end of the presentation. Also, there's a chat where you can send any message to the panelists or to the host so that we can answer any questions you have during the presentation. Really appreciate your guys' attendance, and with that, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Matt, who's going to be taking the presentation. Matt?
Thanks, Ryan. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the call today. Like Ryan said, we're very excited about the new webinar series that we're hosting. This is the second one that we've done, and today we'll be talking about UniFi. And before we get started, I just want to say Happy Valentine's Day. I know it's late for a lot of you, so hopefully you didn't have to make any sacrifices with the significant others to make this webinar, but we hope you get a little bit out of it. The scope of this call, it looks like most of you that have joined the call have used UniFi before. So we'll try to keep the overview and about UniFi brief and get into the good stuff, which as you can see at the end of this call or presentation, we'll be talking about UniFi 3 in a little bit more detail, the new features and how they work. A little bit of history. UniFi platform was introduced in 2010, and since then UniFi has been installed in many countries around the world. Like Ryan said, there are a lot of you that have joined from many different countries on this call. So we're very excited to spread the news about the new features and capabilities of UniFi. We'll be going over the introduction, overview of the product, which we'll try to keep brief since most of you have used UniFi before. We'll go over some of the latest customer stories, current software highlights, as well as the new software highlights in UniFi version 3. And then at the end, we'll open it up for question and answers. And like Ryan said, there's a dedicated question and answer section in WebEx. So if you navigate to that and enter your questions, Ryan will aggregate those and line those up for us at the very end. First up, what is UniFi? The simple answer is UniFi is a very powerful, scalable enterprise Wi-Fi system. And what do we mean by enterprise is this is the type of deployment you'll see in hotels, conference rooms, office buildings, somewhere where there are many access points, and it doesn't really make sense to buy SOHO-type access points that you have to manage individually. UniFi uses a centralized controller system. It takes advantage of the latest technologies. It's very scalable. We've had customers with over 1,000 access points on single controllers. It runs on very powerful hardware and very easy-to-use software, and of course uses the Ubiquiti disruptive pricing model. Here's a brief slide covering the different UniFi models. We have 5 UniFi models currently. The first 3 are the indoor models. The second 2 are outdoor models. All of this information is available on the data sheet, so it might be a little hard to read on the screen. If you want to go back and look at it, you can always go on our website and find the information there. But our first model was the UniFi AP, the standard UAP that runs in 2.4 gigahertz. We then quickly followed up with a UniFi long range, which, as it sounds, was higher power and a little bit longer range. And then now we have the UniFi AP Pro, which is a dual-band, dual-antenna UniFi access point that supports both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz clients at the same time. We also have 2 outdoor models, one that's a 2.4 gigahertz model and another that's 5 gigahertz model. The UniFi access points are very easy to install. In every box, we ship mounting equipment for each UniFi access point. You can either mount these onto a wall directly, or you can easily mount it, attach it to a drop ceiling And everything's included in the box to do that. No additional hardware required. Next, just a brief overview of the system that we use. As mentioned before, UniFi is a controller-based system. This means that everything is controlled from one central location. As I kind of hinted at earlier, if you have even more than just a few access points that you're installing around a building or office, having to go to each one and configure it and monitor it and administer individually becomes quite cumbersome. So if you have a controller-based system where you can do everything from one single interface, it makes it much more efficient and much more powerful. And that's the idea behind our controller-based system. It makes installment and deployment much easier. We have a plug-and-play install where whether you're using a local controller or a remote controller in the cloud, you simply plug the access point into your network and it magically appears in the controller. We aim for a kind of a drag-and-drop type installment. No text-based configuration or anything difficult. There's a single point of administration for you or your users, much better security, better monitoring and analytics, and also a built-in hotspot and guest portal support. Here's just a quick screenshot of what the controller looks like. This is kind of the central hub of everything UniFi, the configuration, the statistics, the management. Everything's done from this one spot. Next, we'll quickly go over this. Who uses UniFi? What are the use cases for UniFi? And the real answer to this is there's no real answer. So many different types of people use UniFi. We love hearing different types of stories, but the typical deployments that we see are large buildings where there are dense amounts of users. So hotels, schools, shopping malls, condo buildings, apartment complexes, citywide outdoor Wi-Fi hotspots, airports, many more. And we'd like to go over a few of those today. To start with, here's a university in Ecuador. I may mispronounce this name, so forgive me, but the Universidad del Azuay. And this is actually the largest university in Ecuador. And they have around 2,000 users online, the system, at any given time. I forget the number of access points they have deployed, but this was just completed, and so far the students and faculty are very happy with the deployment. And I believe we'll have an official case study for this available on the site within the next couple of weeks. So that's one typical deployment. Schools, campuses, is becoming very popular. Here's another story that we like to share. You may have seen this before. This is a story about a children's camp in Mozambique, Africa. This is an area that did not have any kind of connection before. It was never possible, or they never thought it would be possible to use voice or video communications. Now that they have UniFi installed around this camp, the students and teachers and faculty can all use video and voice to each other, and they're very happy with that. So they're able to do things that they never thought they were able to do before with any kind of other equipment or solutions. Here's another quick example of a use case for UniFi. This is just an architectural museum in Greece. As you can see, the UniFi access points are mounted there on the wall. Another typical deployment type for UniFi access points is a hotel. Hotel in large buildings where there are lots of guests. This is one of the first stories that we did. This is a 20-story hotel in Peru. It's a very nice hotel. They have around 80 UniFi access points deployed total. And so far they've been very happy. I believe this one has been installed for over a year now. The next customer we wanted to share is a customer in the UK. This specific customer has a few thousand access points, UniFi access points deployed around the UK. But this specific installation is at the Royal Military Academy in London, where they have over 350 UniFi access points now deployed. and are transferring over a terabyte a day of student traffic. And here's a screenshot from their controller. And then the last story I wanted to share, another common use case for UniFi access points are outdoor type deployments. This is one of our customers in Cesena, Italy. They've deployed over 1,000 access points around the city and down the beach side. I'm not sure why they didn't send us a picture of the beach. That would have been nice. But they have this all over the city and provide free Wi-Fi to all of the city residents. As you can see from the previous examples I shared, UniFi is deployed all over the world. And here's an example of just how far the reach of UniFi is, just based off anonymous usage data that users submit from their controllers. If you can see the numbers in this slide, these numbers are actual controllers that have been installed in these areas. So not even the access points, but number of controllers in each area. So as you can see, it's pretty popular all over the world. This next slide shows the growth of the popularity of UniFi. And so my wife saw this slide last night and she said, "Where are all the numbers?" And I can assure you that the numbers were left out purposely. This is just to kind of give you an idea of how popular the UniFi product and platform has been over the last 2 years. This goes until the end of 2012. But you can see that the growth and popularity has risen quite a bit. And we expect that to continue to grow just as fast, if not faster, in the next 1, 2, 3 years. All right, next I'm going to go over some of the current software highlights, just for those that aren't completely familiar with UniFi and haven't used it before. The first is UniFi from a central location, the central controller, will give you an at-a-glance view of the entire network status. Directly when you log in, you're taken to this screen that shows a map of all of your access points in one area. This is actually a screenshot of the Ubiquiti office first floor. So you can see a couple of the access points spread around the floor. You can see a lot of valuable information from these just when logging in. If you change the tabs at the top, you also have access to other valuable information. For instance, if you click the Users tab, you can see information about all the users on your system. Sometimes customers have thousands of users on here. So it's very valuable to be able to click this and sort and filter and find users and get statistics and see what's going on in your network. And here are a couple of examples from some of our support computers in the lab. You can see their current statistics, how active they are, as well as with version 3, we've added support for history. So you can go back and see how active they've been in the past, when they've been there, and things like that. You can also change their configurations and view their statistics in details. Another nice feature of UniFi that's completely built in is the hotspot and guest user access. The UniFi controller has all of this built in with the click of 1 or 2 buttons. There's no need to install additional software or additional hardware. All you have to do is go into the UniFi system, go to the wireless settings, and click a box that says Enable Hotspot. And anyone that connects to that SSID will have access, will be shown into this hotspot or captive portal, which can be easily customizable with a little HTML knowledge. There's no need to install special software on external servers or set up Radius servers somewhere else. Everything is completely built into UniFi. In addition, UniFi has a very easy-to-use voucher system. For instance, hotels. Hotels are a very common deployment. And when you check into a hotel, sometimes they'll give you a ticket or a voucher for 3 days, 5 days, something like that. UniFi has a completely separate interface built in that you can give access to hotel front desk operators, that they can print tickets out for certain periods of time so they can give to customers. All of this is built into UniFi. You can also create user groups for different users. If you have different paying customers, if you're doing a hotspot and certain users pay more for certain plans, you can separate these into data rate plans. For instance, 1 megabit per second customers versus 5 megabit per second customers. So it's very flexible. As well as billing. UniFi ties directly into billing providers. Right now it supports PayPal Pro. We're looking into supporting others in the future. And the last feature I'll go over before we get into the UniFi 3 features is Layer 3 support, or installation in the cloud. UniFi offers two deployment options. You can either install a controller on-site or with the access points on the same local network, or you have the option to install UniFi at a remote server, maybe in your data center or Amazon Web Services, wherever you want, as long as there's IP connection from the access point to the controller. In some cases, for instance, if you have a coffee shop and you only have a few access points deployed, it doesn't make sense to install a physical server at that location. It's cost prohibitive. So in these cases, it's very useful to be able to have those access points communicate with a controller that's in a different physical location. And that's one of the reasons that we added this feature. All right, next we'll talk about UniFi version 3. I know a lot of you on the call have used UniFi before and are excited to see the new UniFi 3 highlights. And we'll get into a little bit about these features now. UniFi 3 has been in the works for a while. I know Jerry's been working pretty hard on that. The first beta has been released. It was released late Friday night. And so far the feedback has been fairly positive. If you're interested in trying UniFi version 3, you can head over to our forums and we can share it with you there. There's a dedicated forum for this product. But some of the highlights: multi-site management, very popular request; seamless roaming, or what we like to call zero handoff; WLAN groups; rogue AP detection; SNMP support; better load balancing; and also a complete back-end overhaul. We made a lot of improvements on the back-end to improve performance and efficiency of the UniFi controller. All right, the first feature that I'd like to talk about is probably the biggest change to UniFi. It required a lot of back-end changes and architecture improvements. But we now have the option to manage multiple sites from UniFi. And what this solves is the problem that we previously had, where customers, such as a consultant, would install UniFi at multiple locations. For instance, if I had a customer at a coffee shop and I also had a customer down the street that was a library, and I wanted to install at both locations with different settings, previously I had to install different controllers for each customer. Whether it was a different virtual machine or a different physical machine, it doesn't matter. But I have to install different instances of UniFi controllers on different computers. With UniFi version 3, we now have the ability to control multiple sites logically separated on the same controller installation. So no more installing controllers for each customer. You can now have a separate site for each customer. And at each site, it's basically like a separate controller instance. It has separate configurations, separate statistics, maps, even guest portals. And the nice thing about this is if you usually let your customers log into your controller, now they'll still be able to do that. You can specify and delegate users per site. So if I have a user at a coffee shop, I can give them access to their coffee shop, but they can't see the user at the library's information. So it's a very powerful change. Very excited to let users try this new feature. All right, the next feature is seamless roaming. Typically with wireless networking, all of the logic of connection and disconnecting, all of that is handled at the client side. The access points have no control over that. The client decides what's the best AP to connect to, what's the best time to disconnect, and things like that. And since the access points can't control that, a lot of times what will happen is the access point initially connects to the client initially connects to the access point that it's closest to, or that it has the best signal to. And then it will, maybe the laptop or wireless device will move around, and it will stay attached to that access point, even though it might not be the best access point to stay connected to at all times. So we've added a new protocol in UniFi version 3 where the access points actually communicate with each other and determine, well, this client that's attached to you could be better served by me. It sees me at a higher signal now, so we'll go ahead and switch that over. So the client is switched from access point to access point, and the client is completely unaware. The client actually does not see any disassociation events. It thinks it was connected the whole time. So its uptime or connection status still shows connected. There are 0 drops, no packet loss. Even voice or video clients can roam from access to access point without having any kind of loss or degraded performance. One thing I mentioned was usually the logic of connecting and disconnecting is on the client side. And in some cases, some vendors require you to install software, have special drivers on the client side, special support to be able to do this. But the UniFi solution requires no special software, no drivers on the client side. Another nice thing is the controller does not necessarily need to be running. The access points communicate among each other. So even if the controller is not running or the controller goes down for any reason, the access points can still communicate with each other and determine what's the best access point for specific clients to connect to. And another great thing is the seamless roaming feature works on existing UniFi hardware. This isn't something that we're releasing with new hardware and requires any kind of upgrade. This will work on any previous UniFi products. The next feature is WLAN or wireless groups. This was another popular request from our users, kind of related to the multiple site feature. In this case, the WLAN groups feature can be used if you have one site and you have multiple groups of people or access points that you want to kind of keep separated. You have different settings. Some examples could be if you're in an office building and you have different SSIDs for different departments, that you have HR needs to connect to this VLAN. So in the HR department or HR floor, you can put access points in the HR WLAN group and specify specific VLAN settings for that group. And then the floor below may have a different WLAN group. So it's all on the same logical site, but you have different groups to make it easier to manage these different access points. All right, the next feature, I hope you like my artwork, is rogue AP detection. And the first question is, what is a rogue AP? Rogue APs come around when you have a large wireless network. Usually when there's a large wireless network with open access on one of the SSIDs, what can happen is someone can come along and add their own access point with the same SSID and try to collect information from users associating to it. One example could be if you're at a university and the entire university shares one SSID for guest access. If one of the students came along and added an off-the-shelf router with the same SSID, they could have other users associated to it and steal a lot of personal information. So it's not a good thing to have on your network. And UniFi version 3 adds that detection to alert you if any rogue APs show up on your network. So it's just another level of security that for your users that you can offer with the UniFi version 3 software. right, the UniFi version 3 load balancing is a big improvement. We had some load balancing features on the early, but with UniFi version 3, it's improved quite a bit. There are two main things that help with load balancing. One is setting a maximum number of clients per access point. If you only want to allow 30, 40 clients per access point, you can configure that. And if more clients attempt to associate, it will try to move them to other access points. Another new feature with UniFi version 3 is you can now limit the clients based on received signal levels. So if a client has too low of a signal level, it will actually prevent that user from associating to this access point. It will tell it to associate to a different access point. So with these two features, it really helps the load balancing feature. If you have too many users on one access point, it can really degrade the performance on that AP, even if there are other good clients associated to it. So what you want is to try to balance the number of clients among all the access points in the area. And that's all of the review of the features that I had. So now maybe we can open it up for questions and answers. I'm sure there's a lot of questions for the new features from all of you that use UniFi currently. So Ryan, can you help with the questions?
Sure, thanks, Matt. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys, I don't know, a minute or so. If you have some additional questions that you want to send in, just feel free to go ahead and type in some questions. We do have quite a few questions already, but we'll get to as many as we can.
Hey Matt, while they're waiting, can we go over? I know there's been a number of requests and questions regarding beta access. Can you cover that real quick?
Yeah. So if you're familiar with our forum, if you go to the forum, currently forum.ubiquiti.com, and go to the UniFi section, there's now a special forum inside UniFi that has a UniFi 3.0 beta information. To get access to that, you'll have to go to www.ubiquiti.com/beta, and there you'll find a sign-up form. You can agree to the general beta terms, and when you sign up, that forum, the hidden forum inside the UniFi public forum, will appear. So once you sign up, you'll have access to all of the UniFi beta information. It's all automatic process.
Okay, thanks, Matt. With that, I guess we'll start going into some questions, and everybody who's attending, feel free to continue to send in questions as we're going over a few of these different ones. The first question that I saw a lot of was kind of a basic question about some of the capabilities of UniFi as far as max number of APs that can go onto a controller and max number of users that it could handle. So if you could talk a little bit about kind of the capacity.
Okay, I can handle that. So the capacity depends on two things. If you're just using the UniFi controller as a management platform, so meaning you manage the APs, all the configuration statistics, the simple things, then it's very efficient. You can have 1,000+ access points on one controller. As far as, and actually the user traffic never even hits the controller. All the user traffic hits the access point. So number of users does not affect the controller. However, if you have hotspot or guest portal active, then all of that user traffic, or specifically the guest traffic, will go through the controller. So it will be affected. It's still very scalable. I'm not sure of a number. Maybe Jerry has more information, but it's still pretty scalable.
So yeah, I think that's a pretty good answer. Another question is will we ever come out with more than just 4 SSIDs on a network?
Well, some of the new features help with that. Previously, you could override an access point and add multiple SSIDs to that access point if you need one access point to have different ones. We also support different groups now. Are you specifically asking more than 4 per AP?
Yeah, so there's a few people that have asked about having additional SSIDs available.
Jerry, I'll let you take that one if you're available.
Yeah, sure. So we are looking into it. So we'll still do more testing, but it is possible that we will enable more SSIDs.
Okay. The next question that I've seen a few of them is talking about good ways to design your network. So ways that kind of tips of the trade to be able to set up the network the best way as far as choosing where to place the APs and kind of doing a site survey.
Well, a lot of that is probably best to go to our forum and try to get advice from the people that do this from a day-to-day on a day-to-day basis. So, of course, from each one, wireless is not magic. There's no special answer to anything. What you have to do is go to each site, run a site survey, try to figure out where the access points can be deployed, where users can see them, but the access points aren't too close together, where they're interfering. So there are a lot of questions that it's not a very simple thing to answer in a Q&A.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Another question that's come in is the ability to export statistics to Excel, Access, or SQL.
So I'll take that one. Yeah, I'll take that one. So if you have any specific kind of requirement, could you send that in? So we are constantly trying to improve the statistics. And if there is a specific scenario that you are looking into it is all possible that we can export the statistics. And actually, the UniFi, there's also API available that you can write very simple shell scripts to talk to a UniFi controller, where you can actually get a wealth of information out of it as well.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. We've had a few questions just trying to get a better understanding of really what zero handoff does and how it works. So if one of you guys could talk a little bit about zero handoff, specifically how it works.
So I'll take this one. So in a nutshell, from client's point of view, the zero handoff basically make all the APs become one. So client only see one AP. So there's no roaming period. So in the traditional roaming, even the fetch roaming, for the security, you still have to go through the four-way handshake for the WPA. So that's going to be like 50 milliseconds, 100 millisecond delay. But for zero handoff, there's going to be none. And the access points, they will become one in the sense that they run on the same channel. They broadcast the same BSSID. So that's how we make it appear as one AP for the front client's point of view, and they do require to be running in the same layer 2 network because they use the multicast to communicate with each other about your which client do I own, how's their signal strength, do I want to keep one up, or who should take over which client. Those are decided by APs among themselves.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. And also, if you can, one follow-up question is, will you be able to disable that mode, or does that come automatically? And then also, if you can talk similarly about how the SNMP is going to work.
Sure. So like in one of the Matt screenshots, the zero handoff come in a specific WLAN group. So in the WLAN group, you can associate a WLAN group to a radio. So if you turn on the zero handoff for that WLAN group, and for that radio, all that radio is going to become like zero handoff. It's going to apply all the SSID inside that WLAN group. So that's how they kind of tie together. And in terms of SNMP, so right now we only opened a very basic SNMP support, so you are not going to expect a lot of our proprietary MIPS being published. But I think the purpose is we want to get all the uptime information, all the things that you can kind of integrate with your current management system. At least you get the kind of like the uptime, you get kind of make things into your system. because for the proprietary NIP, you will still have to build something customized in order to get those, make those information useful. But we are very open on this one, and actually we already applied a NIP number for our company. So we will be looking into adding more to make it even more enterprise.
Thanks, Jerry. I think two questions for Ben. One is there's a few questions about stock ability, and then the other question is new hardware. Is there going to be any new UniFi hardware coming out?
So, can you hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So, as far as stock, I guess maybe just some questions as far as what maybe you can just kind of clarify what they're asking. They can email us directly if they have some questions about a particular product or whatever. But you know, all of the products that have been discussed today, UAP Pro, UAP LR, UAP, all of those are shipping and should be available in the channel. So if there's any questions on that, let us know. And as far as new hardware, nothing that can be disclosed at this point. But yes, there is definitely additional hardware that's being looked into and discussed, and hopefully we'll have some announcements on that in the coming time, you know, over the next couple of months.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Another common question has been about not only using the management system to manage the wireless, but also in certain situations to manage the wired users as well. Is that something that we're looking into?
That was it for you?
Oh, is that for me? Sorry. I don't know, Jerry, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, the UniFi product is only for the wireless customers. I think for managing the wired customers, maybe something like Edge Max, Edge Router would be a better fit.
Yes, I think we intentionally, for the UniFi, especially for the current UniFi, we intentionally want to be a layer 2 solution, because there are a lot of layer 3 features that we could add, but that's going to make it a lot more complicated. So we want to make this a very good, very correct, and give all the layer 3 to layer 7 capability to the existing infrastructure that you already have, or other company might be doing pretty well. So that's where we stand right now.
Okay, thanks, Jerry and Matt. And Jerry, this one's for you. It's about using UniFi to repeat to other UniFi and kind of best practices, and what do you recommend and suggest as far as chaining the UniFi together?
So we have a feature called a wireless uplink. So for areas where you just cannot do the wire, you can use the wireless uplink to you basically use the wireless as the uplink of an AP, and it's also possible to use that AP Ethernet to connect to another AP, so you can kind of do a multiple hub. But my personal suggestion is to use the point-to-multipoint, get our AirMax product line as your backbone. That's going to look a lot better. In that the wireless uplink, right now there's no aggregation, so the speed is going to be an issue. While the connectivity is there, you cannot pump like too much traffic. It's okay to serve the web, but for any kind of video streaming, it's going to be a stress.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. A few other questions as far as with this zero handoff. They're wondering if there's a specific type of Wi-Fi phones that have already been tested. Have we done any testing with trying to do calls moving over from AP to AP? And if so, how has that worked out?
Yes, we've done a lot of testing with quite a few flavor of devices. So basically, the APs, they use multicast to communicate all the signal strengths reported by the clients. And because they are all on the same channel, each AP can hear each client. Of course, we don't kind of like always listening. And they can make a decision, of course. There's also thresholds, like, well, when the signal difference is like 10 dB, well, we might leave it alone. But when it goes at 15 dB, then they'll start to vote which AP should take over this client. So that's kind of how it works in a nutshell.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. Also, could you talk about the remote management? People are wondering about cloud management, managing it from a NOC, and the best way to go about that.
So the UniFi from 1.0 is actually built from ground up to be able to be layer 3 manageable. In that, so very much like all your CP devices, the communication direction is the AP that will phone home. So that makes the net or any kind of firewall rules easy to configure. You just have to configure on the controller side. So in terms of the layer 3 management, there are actually two pieces. One is on the NOC side, we offer a Amazon AMI instance, so you can actually launch it on Amazon, or you can have your own data center and kind of set it up. And on the device side, we also support like DHCP option 43, we also support DNS, or you can use our own discovery utility. So basically to tell the AP where the controller is. So that way the AP will phone home, you adopt it from the controller side, and well, from now on, all the APs will be managed by that central controller. And actually we also use the stun. So that's going to make the command, when you want to do a reboot, any kind of command from the controller to the AP, also instantaneous.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. And Matt, could you talk a little bit about what happens if the controller, for some reason, it goes down? Do the APs still working, and how does that work?
Well, it depends. Similar to what I was discussing earlier about the scalability, if the access point is, or the controller is just there for configuration and management and statistics, if the controller goes down, the access points still perform fine. They don't need to use the controller for anything. All of the traffic passes from the user to the access points to the local router. Nothing gets proxied through the controller or anything like that. So unless the users are using the controller for guest portal or hotspot, then the controller is not specifically required for day-to-day operation. So you can turn the controller off and the access points and user traffic will still operate fine unless there's a hotspot or guest portal.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Jerry, do we have any timeline as far as when 3.0 is going to go out of beta? Any general estimate?
So for now, we are fixing bugs that's being reported by the beta testers, and we are also adding more features from all the feedback. And actually, there are a few things that we kind of left out in the initial beta release. So we are looking at releasing another one, which will, well, maybe a few interim releases, but public beta where we will actually post in the beta forum in probably a month. And I think we will look at how it goes from there. But if everything goes well, like the current beta program, I think we will be looking at probably 2 months to have an actual 3.0 release.
Okay, the next question is talking about with version 3.1, they just want to confirm that it's not going to be a hardware upgrade, but this is a software upgrade. The next question is will the Pico station still be supported with the new version?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes it simple enough. So it will be a software update, and then the Pico station will be supported for that. So you'll still be able to do that.
Correct.
Okay. I'm going through. There's still lots of questions coming in. So if you guys have additional questions, still feel free to. It looks like we got about 5 more minutes. There's a lot of questions about. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Ryan, I was just. I know a couple of questions that had come in also regarding kind of setup and what's recommended for kind of laying out a facility, and then also the signal strength or the kind of the coverage area, the map, and being able to adjust the coverage area. Can you talk a little bit about that, Matt?
Yeah. So generally, when you're deploying these networks, there are a couple of things that you have to keep in mind. One is signal or coverage. When you place an AP on the ceiling or the wall, where will it actually, what area will it cover? The second thing is the density or capacity of that access point. If you have a very dense environment, then you're going to have to place your access points closer together. That's a little easier to calculate. The coverage depends on a few things, primarily the environment, the types of walls that you have in your building, or what the environment is like. From what I see, when users are deploying these, the best way is to simply go to the location with some kind of access point, maybe a Pico station or something, turn it on and walk around the building and see what kind of wireless signal you can have from place to place. That will help you determine the best way to place your UniFi access points. Hopefully that helped answer the question.
I think you did a great job with that, Matt.
Thanks, Ryan.
So, I guess some of the concerns that we're seeing here is one in which there's a lot of new features that are being added, and the questions are about how is that going to affect the performance of the UniFi devices. One of the things that people are saying is they really like the performance, and they want to know if turning on some of these new features is going to affect the performance. So, Jerry, could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, put it simply, if there's a major hit to the performance, then that will be a bug, and we'll have to fix it. So right now there's no feature that we added that will kind of impact the performance to a degree where it's not usable. We always do get both sides.
Okay, that sounds good. Now, the controller, what kind of flavors is it going to be available in, as far as Windows, Linux? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the controller can be installed Windows, Linux. We have a Debian package, Windows, Linux, as well as the Mac OS.
Okay, next question is about having authorized.net being integrated with UniFi. Is that on the roadmap anytime soon?
Yes. You might actually see that in the official beta. We will add a few more into the payment gateways to authorize the credit cards, charges.
Okay, and Matt, there's been a few questions about using the outdoor APs with other antennas. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Sure. Yeah, some of our customers currently use the UniFi outdoor APs with our other outdoor antennas. As you know, the mounting bracket on the back of the outdoor UniFi AP is the same as our standard Rocket M products, so they'll easily attach to our outdoor Omni, which come in 10 or 13 dBi models, or it'll attach directly to the Sector antennas, which come in a few flavors as well.
Okay, and kind of a follow-up on that, Matt. If you could talk about why you would choose the regular UniFi versus the UniFi Long Range versus the UniFi Pro, in what situations you'd kind of say, hey, it's better to choose the Pro version versus the Long Range or the regular? If you could talk a little bit about that, great.
I think the main question here, or the main variable, would be the density of user deployment. So in very dense environments, I would almost 100% use the UniFi Pro because it has two radios. The main bottleneck on these access points is the wireless. So if you have two radios at each access point, one at 2.4 and 1.5 gigahertz, that's basically double the amount of users per access point. And saves you a lot of spectrum as well. You can place these pretty close to each other and handle a lot more users. Second would be the standard UniFi. I would use that in a little bit more dense environments. Sometimes people assume the UniFi LR is better just because it's higher power, but in dense environments, it's sometimes even better to use a lower power device and place them closer together. And then the UniFi LR in deployments where maybe the users are spread out a little bit farther, the LR can reach farther distances. So that's kind of how I would choose.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Jerry, the last question is for you. We're out of time, so we really appreciate that. But here's the last question, Jerry. They're wondering if you can talk a little bit more about the new rogue AP detection. Now, is it a method just to be alerted about it, or does it have some mitigation? And if you could talk a little bit about how it works.
So right now, it's just a detection. So one thing that we specifically did was to highlight those open APs. So those open access points are actually those that are more prone to be attacked, or they are more dangerous. But in terms of any mitigation, right now we are not doing anything yet. And we are actually seeing some feedback, so we might be changing some of the detection, some of the filtering a little bit. And in terms of how it is done, it's done by when the AP comes up, it's going to do a kind of a scanning of all the adjacent channels, and of course they will also scan on their own channel, and we will pick up all those APs that are not managed by the same controller. We treat any one of those as rogue. So that's what we have right now.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. This will conclude our web seminar. I really appreciate Matt, Jerry, Ben for being on the panel, and we appreciate all of you for attending. If you're looking for additional information, we recommend going to our forum, and you can go to the forum by going to forum.ubnt.com. And many of the answers to your questions will be there. And also, if you want to post some additional questions, feel free to do that at any time. Our engineers monitor the forum, and we really appreciate your feedback. The other places where you can go to find some additional information on UniFi is the Frequently Asked Questions wiki. And also, you can go to the data sheets, which are found on ubnt.com. We appreciate you guys attending, and we hope you have a wonderful Valentine's Day. Thank you.
Thank you.